So last week we introduced to you this book titled The Will to Win. It's the biography of the iconic Biodun Shobanjo. And we showed you the first part of that interview and promised that this week we'll show you the concluding part of that interview. But I was just flipping through, there's this chapter here titled Innovate or Die. Now think about that. Companies and organizations go down when they stop innovating. When you stop innovating, you start dying. The companies that last so many, many years and are on top of their fields are companies that constantly innovate because things are constantly changing. Our tastes are changing, our cultures are changing, our interests are changing. Technology is constantly changing. So once a company does not innovate, the company begins to die. Here's a quote from Biodun Shobanjo. You win always when you think ahead of your customers always. So you win when you constantly think about what your customers will be needing, not just now, but they'll be needing in the future, they'll be needing tomorrow. Once you think like that as an individual or as an organization, then you win, says Biodun Shobanjo. It's really a loaded book, interesting quotes here and there. There's another quote here. The source is unknown, chapter 9. The source of this quote is unknown. Man cannot discover new oceans unless he has the courage to lose sight of the shore. That's deep. I mean, you don't stay on the shore and discover new oceans, do you? You've got to launch out there and go. And go so far that when you look back, you can't see the shore again. So there's a bit of lack of security, the ability, to be courageous and bold and take the risk that is needed for achieving great things. That's what this quote is talking all about. And of course, the story of Biodun Shobanjo and so many nice, interesting quotes here and there. So for those of you who are thinking of, how can I be successful? How can I break new grounds in my career? And so on. You want to look at The Will to Win. And so many other interesting biographies and autobiographies out there. I particularly love to read biographies and autobiographies. In fact, when I grew old enough, most of my reading there were biographies and autobiographies. And then later on, I picked up interest in fiction. I became a fan of fiction. I started reading novels and all that. So right now, I've got what I would call a healthy mix of reading. I could read non-fiction, I could read fiction, I could read biographies, autobiographies, novels. And of course, my job makes sure that I read all sorts of things. And I thoroughly enjoy reading. So let's go to the second part of Biodun Shobanjo's interview. Enjoy this. I would like to talk about something that caught up my attention here. Your attitude to money. First of all, when you started, you had a very prudent approach to money. Option to buy A, more expensive. Option to buy B, less expensive, but gets the job done. You picked B at the beginning. I would like you to say something about that. I know your parents' influence, had a lot to do with you developing that attitude early. But how much did it help you?
It did. My father was very prudent, generous. His father loved him because he took care of his father. It didn't matter where we are. My father would ensure he sent money to his father. In those days, the post office regularly to his church at home, to his relations. He took care of them. He was a railway worker. Don't forget. And by the time he died, he had 2 houses. One in Ijebu, one here in Lagos. So the thing about being prudent just basically means that, like he told me then, that if you earned if you couldn't save from 1 shilling, chances are that you wouldn't be able to save from £1. So I learned that very early. Even when I was in school, I was saving. And you could see how that helped. I mean, even to start Insight. It was from my little savings that I put down the money, because when I left the company up till today, they didn't pay me my severance pay, which I had banked on. So it was from the little savings that I had that, I put down and said, okay, guys, chip in. And people were chipping in 500 naira, 1,000 naira, way back then. Some of the shareholders, that's how much they put down. It's in the book.
What do you consider to be your greatest accomplishments in business?
For me, I think it is the ability to partner with a global player like Publicis Group. How do I mean? When you look at a lot of African and I dare say Nigerian businesses, what tends to happen is that once the founders die, those businesses die. That worries me a lot. And yet you look at global organizations that we hear about, that we read about, the Fords of this world, the Coca-Colas of this world, the Nestle, they were started by individuals. And I said to myself, how can we ensure, what can we do to ensure the sustainability of our business? And I felt that the best we could do was to partner with a global player who would have equity in our business. For me, that's the greatest achievement.
I was looking out for your relationship, if I may use that word, with Nigeria. In this book, your views about Nigeria, your thoughts, your feelings, about your country in this book. At times I felt pride. I felt that you saw opportunities to be exploited, to be explored. I thought you saw a lot of that in your country, and that was probably the basis on which you were able to build, successful brands and businesses in your country. At other times, I felt a little bit of disappointment that the country could be a lot better and stronger than it is currently. Is that a good summary of your feelings towards Nigeria?
I think that is correct. To be honest, at the time that I ventured out to do the things that we did, if the environment wasn't conducive, there's no way we would have achieved it. I have always held the view that the responsibility of government is to create an enabling environment where people can thrive. All right? And even though in 1980, when I set out, the economy was in some kind of a turmoil, you could still do things. All right? There was safety, for example. There wasn't any fear. We had clients in Ibadan. My executive who was going up and down, he had a car, he had 3 tires. He couldn't afford to buy a 4th tire. He would go with public transport, go and come back, same day. And I'm talking of Jimmy Awishika here. Life was reasonably comfortable. And that's what people are agitating for right now. So when you see how we have come, and you see the way things seem to be dropping, you worry. You worry. I mean, the Nigeria of 1980, you even look at the strength of the Naira opposite that of the United States dollar. Take comparisons from 1980 to now. See where we are. Why do these things happen to us? Why are we not able to manage ourselves properly? And people have talked about leadership and leadership and leadership. We need to fix this. It's not rocket science. I don't think so. I'm not a politician, but, let government create an enabling environment. That's what these NSAS kids are saying. Really, when you dimension it, they're just saying, give us the opportunity to thrive. We also want to thrive. We've gone to school, we can't find jobs. That's why I want them to read this book. Because, like I said, it would motivate them. It would motivate, and I hope that even those in government will read the book, because when they look at where we're coming from when I started in 1980 to where we are, for crying out loud, our group employs over 18,000 people directly. Whether we like it or not, we must pay 18,000 people every month. And we started with 18 people. In 1980, 2020, 18,000. So we are taking a lot of burden off government. And the more young people can create their own businesses, if government creates the environment for them to thrive, they would also employ people. All of this employment we're talking about, that's creating problems and all that, would hopefully begin to disappear.
How would you like people to summarize Biodun Shobanjo?
Well, the Jebu boy who came, saw and tried to conquer, who by dint of, can add luck, hard work, passion, the grace of God, played in a very competitive business environment, and achieved a little bit that he did.
Mr. Biodun Shobanjo, thank you very much for giving us your time. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Kunle. It's been my pleasure.
I had a good time.
Thank you. Thank you.